Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. This is Potato, and welcome back to our channel. Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and I'm back again for another week of TLC's hit, award-winning, maybe someday Emmy-winning television show, The 1,000 Pound Sisters, starring Tammy, Amy, Chris, Amanda, Misty, Brittany, all the whole family. The whole family's there, every single one of them. And what a show we got for you today. Oh, I left out Caleb. Caleb as well. Caleb's an important part of probably some of the biggest parts of nonsense in this episode. Well, really, the stars when it comes to nonsense this week are Caleb and Amy, but we'll get into it. We will get into it. We got a lot to talk about. So this episode is called Fried, Cried, and Tried, and it starts off picking back up at the rehab facility that Caleb is in currently, and Tammy is still there with him, still doing her visit. If you recall, last week they kind of like ended the episode. Tammy was upset about she had just arrived to the facility and she found like a big basket full of snacks in Caleb's room, just out in the open, not even trying to hide it. And the episode starts off with Tammy making him throw all of that in the trash, and they're performing an exorcism on his diet or something like that, or the food, or at least I think that's what they were trying to say.
Be gone, demon!
Oh, you're a food assist.
It's an exorcist, boy. It's an exorcist, a food assist.
Oh,
And honestly, this is a trope on these morbidly obese weight loss shows these days where they like throw away all the food. It's a trope. And honestly, it was very interesting that old Tammy was getting a little turned on by Caleb smashing and throwing away the food.
Seeing Caleb pour out his favorite candies is kind of hot. Kind of like, okay.
I'm just like, there is a world for that for somebody. I know that there are people in the world that enjoy that kind of thing, and I'm sure Tammy's familiar with some of that, but I'm good. I don't need to see any more smushed up Oreos and old Caleb's hand like that. I'm good. I've seen enough. I've seen enough. The next scene is Amanda, Misty, and Amy trying to help Amy move on from finding the wedding dress in her house the last week, or at least in last week's episode. And so they've planned to destroy the dress together. But before we get to that part of this all, one of the themes of this week's episode is Amy taking a tumble, and she takes a tumble in this part.
Well, we got a big target now. Oh my God! Are you all right?
Yeah.
Them extra glasses didn't help you none, did they?
I told you that wouldn't cause wreck.
So I guess their goal is to squirt paint water or something at the dress and spray silly string on it and things like that. I think what's most important to know is that Amy doesn't have a real great grasp on how to work the little water gun.
Pow, pow, bitches. Ka-chow, ka-chow. When you shoot this gun, it comes crooked. So if I be aiming it at you, but it will go this way. And I'm like, how the why think you be the crooked gun?
And unfortunately, after all of that was said and done, Amy didn't really feel any better than she did before, which, like, honestly, not surprising. We literally just saw, I don't know if that was last week's episode, the week before, but we saw that one episode where her and Tammy went and broke a bunch of shit in that room. They paid to go and, like, smash shit with a baseball bat. That obviously didn't really help her. I don't know that spraying some water on her wedding dress is gonna be all that helpful either. I will say though, Amy has some plans on how to celebrate once the divorce is final.
But once the divorce is final, I probably will be ready to celebrate then. But not with a dress. Maybe with a hot man.
And speaking of romance, the next scene is Caleb setting up a nice romantic dinner in the rehab facility for old Tammy.
I'm over here, beautiful. With a kiss. And a little bit of slop.
Ooh la la! This man is so romantic. I don't know how Tammy does it. If that man was romancing me like this, it would be over. They go on to have a discussion about how this really just feels like a first date for them again, which is interesting for a lot of reasons because, I don't know, they met in a rehab facility clinic that they both were at. So I don't know that they were really going on a lot of dates to begin with. So it would make sense that this feels like a first date to them. And I think it also probably feels like a first date for them because a lot of the things they're talking about in terms of like the butterflies and the excitement of being on a date together is the excitement that you would have early on in a relationship when you didn't really know each other super well, when things aren't super in depth. And I think what we continue to see between the two of them is that their relationship, from at least what we've seen on TV, has never been based in some kind of like in-depth, meaningful relationship. It never makes it further than just like, I love you, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, you look like Linda Evangelista, you're a model. So it makes sense to me that, you know, this is not super deep over here. Although I will say, Tammy does care a lot about Caleb. You know, I think one, it's possible we haven't seen everything. And two, it's possible that even if their relationship is shallow, that Caleb can still be somebody that Tammy cares deeply about, right? Like, you can care about people who have been a part of your life, even if your relationship isn't super deep. So on this so-called romantic date, Caleb brings some takeout food. It includes things like mozzarella sticks, fried mushrooms, and chicken wings, okay? We're talking about the just like epitome of health. He started pulling out them styrofoam containers and I was like, what is he doing here? I just knew nothing healthy was coming in a styrofoam container like that. And I was just like, one, my first thought immediately was TLC is so fucking messy for even recording this because, like, literally they had just filmed a segment where they had him throwing out his bad food. And then they were like, yeah, we're going to now film him bringing out all this fried food for Tammy. This is going to be great. And then I was like, well, that's really what they did. TLC said, we've hit a fucking gold mine of content here. We really just sat here and watched the exorcism of this junk food go into the trash. and now we're really about to set up and record Tammy in this situation where her husband is pulling out all this fried food. And TLC, I'm sure, was like, we've hit a fucking gold mine here. This is content. This is drama. But yeah, Caleb explains that, like, his options for food were limited between the rehab facility and the small town that the rehab facility was in. And he also said that he picked what he did because he remembered Tammy eating things like that when she was in the facility and that those were some of her favorite things. And he also claims that you can eat like that when you do it in a controlled way, which I suppose I do believe, but I don't know that Caleb is somebody that's currently in a place to be able to say, like, I can do this in a controlled kind of way. You know what I'm saying? But Tammy is very clearly perturbed by the situation. She doesn't understand, like, why he's doing all of this. And I think she's upset. I appreciate that she's specifically upset about Caleb's food addiction and not upset with Caleb himself, because she's like, this is way worse than I thought it was. Like, I had no idea that it was like this level of bad, that he really thought that he could bring all this fried food to dinner with me and there wouldn't be a problem. And honestly, I think he's just very much in denial about his situation, about his health, about what a world where he is healthy looks like. I say that he's in denial because he fully at one point says, well, I can lose 25 pounds in 2 weeks. All I gotta do is lose 25 pounds in 2 weeks. And then I'm good. I'll be home soon. And that seemingly leaves out the part where Dr. Smith said, like, first you meet this weight loss goal, then we do surgery, And then you still probably on top of that have like 6 months left in the rehab facility to recover so we can get you to a place where you don't need your trach. So it just feels like he's not living in reality with the rest of the world. He seems to be a little bit in denial, and I think that's also present in him thinking that he could show up to this romantic date and bring all this fried food for Tammy to eat. So we move forward to another day, and it's the day that Tammy has to leave the rehab facility and head back to her home in Kentucky. And it starts off with Caleb saying like just a really grim and foreboding statement about how he's worried when she leaves that will be the last time he sees her.
I feel like if she walks out of that door, it's gonna be the last time I see my baby. That's scary. It's damn scary.
And again, not to spoil anybody, but something that we know does end up happening is that Caleb has passed away. And so I think it feels grim and foreboding and sad because we know what the outcome of this situation is. And it kind of felt like to me that even at that point in time, he knew that nothing was really going to change for him. I will say, I think that it is possible that he was just referring to maybe like the status of the relationship. What we also know is that leading up to his passing, that Caleb and Tammy did have some relationship issues, which do seem to be present even in these scenes today. So I think him making that comment was more based on his worries that he's like pushing her away, that he's disappointing her, that she might leave him. I don't know that he necessarily was saying it in the context of, I feel like I'm gonna die if I don't make a change. Regardless, I think we can all agree that it still feels very grim, very sad, and very unfortunate to especially see throughout this whole episode Tammy just really pushing for Caleb to do better, to take care of himself, because she clearly is very invested in this man. And Tammy does reiterate to him that her leaving on this particular day doesn't mean that it's forever, and that he just has to work on himself and they can live a life together in the future. And like I said, I don't know that I think that their relationship was like incredibly deep by any means, but it is clear, and I can just say this from talking to Tammy myself, like Tammy is a person, despite what you may have seen on some of the seasons of this show, ultimately, she does have a big heart and she cares a lot about the people around her. And I think she's really demonstrating that this season with the way that she talks about her sister Amy, the way that she talks about Caleb. And it's clear to me that she really does care about Caleb and his well-being. And she also talks about how she's able to now see how her family must have felt when she was being so defiant and doing nothing to make her life better and doing nothing to push forward. And so, I think she's in an interesting place where, she's able to also spend some of this experience reflecting on her own behaviors and her own interactions with her family, and seeing how that comes into play with her relationship with Caleb. But yeah, Caleb claims that he's gonna keep pushing forward and he feels bad for letting Tammy down, so we'll see what happens in the next few episodes. The next scene is a quick little trip to an indoor playground with Amy, Tammy, and the boys, and Amy takes a tumble part 2.
You're doing it. Uh-oh. Oh, snap. You good? That poor turtle.
Tammy takes some time to catch Amy up about what happened during her trip to go see Caleb and how he had the food and he was like cheating on his diet. And I love Amy because Amy's like, girl, that's so you coded.
What's the part calling the kettle black? The box of snacks? That's a cheat day. And don't remind me of all the cheat days you had, Tammy. Your cheat days turned into cheat years, bitch.
And Amy was kind of doing a good job of reiterating, you just gotta be patient. Please remember that you, Miss Tammy, took years to come around. And it could be a long time for Caleb to come around and do something to better his life. And Tammy is like, yes, I know, I got it. I'm there with you. I understand. I understand now what I put you all through because I'm going through it right now with Caleb. Then we get to see the beauty that is a Kentucky-themed derby get-together that's being hosted by Chris and Brittany. And the girlies all show up in their finest Kentucky Derby fashions. And to be quite honest, I don't know that Amy really has any kind of grasp on what the Kentucky Derby is or why they're even celebrating it at Chris and Brittany's house.
I don't care nothing about sports. I'm not here for all the who's gonna win, who's Seabiscuit gonna fight next to LeBron James.
The one part of the party that I was jealous of is that they did some DIY Kentucky Derby hats, and I honestly thought that was so slay and so fun and would have loved to participate. Like, could you imagine, what if I made a little Kentucky Derby beanie? Wouldn't that be so cute? The other thing they do is have a stick pony race, which, I don't know, was very confusing to me as a concept, and Amy had some concerns about riding on a stick.
I'm not getting on that thing. That's a stick. What the We're fat people. Why are you gonna ride a stick? Come on now. That's a damn toothpick.
What do you know about riding on a stick, Miss Amy? What do you know about that? But yeah, Amy doesn't end up participating, and Chris just blames it on her being lazy, which is interesting, I guess, because it didn't look like he was putting a ton of effort into his own participation in this. But he does refer to Amy as lazy. And yeah, I was really unclear on like what the rules were or seemed to be, or if there were any whatsoever. But I appreciate the jokes and innuendos that came along with this little segment, including finding out that this is not the first horse that old Amanda's rode.
Well, I know that's not Amanda's first horse he's rode. Probably won't be the last either. Amanda's been on a freaking bull. She knows how to book.
And honestly, the MVP of the whole little segment situation type of deal for me personally was Brittany in this particular clip right here.
Brittany, why are you standing there?
So after all of that, the family agrees that they should start doing like a weekly workout moment together. And Amy says she's willing to try anything except yoga.
You know how clumsy I am standing up? Can you imagine me doing doggy style and then fall on my ass?
I'm sorry, doing what?
Downward facing dog, sorry.
Y'all, it is just such a sexy, sexy episode today. They made so many comments about things like sex related. I was just like, oh my god, the people in my comments that get mad at me for having innuendos are really gonna be upset about these girlies and their sex jokes today. I also have to say, I hope that they don't get too carried away with this weekly workout thing, because I really think one of the most boring things about the 1,000 Pound Best Friends, which I famously didn't finish covering, and I'm not sure they got a third season. One of my least favorite things about that show was just like the forced group workouts they did every week. It didn't add anything to the storyline. Now, luckily, like we're gonna find out today in just a few minutes when I talk about their trip to go do Zumba. Luckily, so far, the group outings to workouts seem to have caused more drama, if anything. But like, we don't necessarily need to see these people work out every week. I'm gonna be honest with you, that's not why I tune into this show. I really do want them to be happy and to be healthy, and I'm sure working out is a part of that. But I don't tune in to watch old Tammy do Zumba, okay? That, for me personally, maybe you all do, but for me personally, that's not why I'm here. They also talk about how they're gonna take a family trip to Pensacola, Florida, which I did in the off season get a lot of receipts sent to me saying that people had seen them filming in Pensacola, Florida. So y'all are on it. Y'all were spying out where the old SLATO'Ns were going and where they've been, and so y'all cracked the code. You got it. It also seems like the flying part of this is going to be a big part of the story. I'm curious because, so they mentioned that Tammy's scared to fly just because she hasn't ever flown before. Like, for a long time, she couldn't even ride comfortably in a car, let alone get on an airplane. So that seems like that's going to be a big thing for Miss Tammy. But they mentioned that Amy really just, like, does not want to fly. And I think she said she's only flown one time ever before. And I'd have to go back and check the archive and check the old episodes. But I do think there was a time, and maybe this is the one time that Amy's ever flown, but I think there was one time that she and Michael, and maybe even Gage, I think Gage was born, where they flew to Atlanta to see Dr. Proctor. I can't remember, but I feel like that was a part of an episode, and I don't remember it being too bad, but y'all, my memory is like a fucking goldfish these days, so I could just be, like, the fact that I even have a vague remembrance of this happening is amazing in its own, you know? So the family does, in fact, go to a Zumba class, which let me just be honest, I love Zumba. I haven't done a Zumba class in forever, but it was something that I went to weekly with my friends in grad school when I went to Indiana University. We had this wonderful instructor. Her name was Vanjie. Vanjie girl, if you are out there, I just want you to know, well, I know you know, because me and my friends, we would sit in the very back corner and, like, struggle to do all the moves. And she always, like, came up afterwards and was like, you guys are doing so great. You're so wonderful. So, Vanjie girl, if you're out there, if you just happen to be watching this, just know I really appreciated you. And you know what else? Speaking of instructors at the old Indiana University, this is a little bit of a tangent, but we'll circle back. We'll circle all the way back to the SLATON'S here just a second. But do y'all know the fitness marshal here on the YouTubies? He does the little dances to all the songs. He was a student, a college student at Indiana University when I was in grad school there, and he used to host a hip-hop cardio dance class at the gym. I could never go to it because it was just at a time that I always had conflicts with. But I did see him out and about at the singular gay bar in Bloomington, Indiana. So yeah, I don't know. I just think about that a lot. I'm like, I interacted with that man, and now he's, like, way bigger on YouTube than I am, for sure. He was always very nice from what I remember, but anyways, wow, what a tangent. Zumba. We're at the Zumba. One thing I'll also say, since they're gonna make these, like, family workouts a thing, Chris is like, oh, we're doing these family workouts because, you know, we've all had the surgery now, we need to stay on track. But I'm like, this show has given such little attention to Misty and Amanda's surgery. It is still so crazy to me how we found out that they got approved for surgery and they had the surgery all in a matter of, like, a 5-minute segment. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but a 5-minute segment on one singular episode of the show. It is just so wild to me that we've just, like, glossed over that so quickly, and we've gotten, like, next to no updates on how they're doing post-surgery. So they're doing the Zumba, and I gotta say, my favorite thing about the Zumba, about them doing this, was that every single shot they showed of the family doing the Zumba was just, like, them maybe barely moving side to side like this, which, if you've never done Zumba, it's a lot more than just this. Although a lot of times they give you suggestions for things you can do if you can't do, like, the advanced moving. I will say, if anybody had the dance moves, Tammy really had the dance moves.
I got those hits on my dance move. Real hot girl style. Cause we on the hot girl.
And I also honestly was living for the shots of the instructor that they kept showing. Like, her face was on a whole different level. And I'm just gonna be honest, the SLATON'S simply were not on her level. So at one point, Amy starts to stand off to the side. She's not even attempting to sway side to side with the family. She looks upset, she looks disgruntled, and we come to find out that she is just not feeling well. Her stomach hurts, she doesn't want to be there. And so the family all leaves the classroom where the Zumba is happening, and they go sit down with Amy, and they're like, Amy girl, what's the problem? And thank God, at almost 34 minutes into this 43-minute long episode, somebody finally brings up pooping.
I've tried pooping. I've tried everything this morning.
When's the last time you used the bathroom?
2 weeks ago.
What?
But honestly, it's so crazy to me that this girly pop has not pooped in 2 weeks. Like, you must be in some kind of pain. You really must not be feeling good, because that is wild to me. And it's also wild to me, and maybe not wild. Really, it's not wild at all. Only this show could have a whole plot point of the show centered around the fact that a person has not pooped in 2 weeks. Like, no other show is fucking doing it like the 1,000 Pound Sisters. So we find out that Amy's really just like not doing a lot of things that could be helping her care for herself. She's not taking her vitamins, which if you have weight loss surgery, there's a lot of vitamins you have to take to make sure that your body is still getting all the vitamins it needs to make sure that your body is doing the things that it's supposed to be doing. And they allude to the fact that like, because you haven't been taking your vitamins, that's why you're not pooping. She also hasn't been taking, I guess, some other prescribed medicines, and she also isn't using her CPAP at night, which means she's also not getting great sleep because, if you don't know, CPAPs are for sleep apnea, and sleep apnea causes you to, like, not take in enough oxygen while you're sleeping at night. So she's in a bad mood because she doesn't feel well, she's not getting enough sleep, she's not taking care of herself. And of course, she's getting this lecture from primarily Amanda and Chris, but even Tammy is saying, like, girl, I need you to take care of yourself. They're all kind of doing it simultaneously. And then Chris makes a joke about how Amy is literally full of shit. He's just joking, but he makes a joke about her being full of shit. And that's too much for Amy, and she decides to leave. Up to this point, I didn't get the sense that Amy was being too unreasonable. It was clear she didn't feel well. I could see her not wanting to sit there and do all of that. They tried to say that, like, she stormed out or she stomped out. What I watched was her saying, like, I'm not feeling well, this is too much, I just want to get up and leave the situation and go home. Up until then, like, she was being reasonable. I think what happens next, she's being a little less reasonable for sure. But up until that point, I feel like I could relate to, if I'm not feeling well, if I want to be sitting here filming the Zumba class, then I don't want to be there, you know? And I felt like she wasn't being too unreasonable with how she communicated it up until that point. So then, though, the family ends up going outside to the old maroon van where Amy's sitting in the back seat with the door open, and they confront her and talk to her about how she has to start taking care of herself. In particular, Chris and Amanda are giving her a lot of hard truths about needing to take her medicine, needing to use her CPAP, and she'd be in a better mood. And Amy gets a little frustrated with them addressing her like this, so what does she do? She just closes the automatic door on the van.
Hey, what were you being?
Do with it. I'm done. Leave it alone. I don't feel good. I'm not doing it. Ganged up on Amy bull.
And honestly, I was like, ooh, her shutting the conversation down in this kind of way is kind of iconic, honestly. Until later in the episode that they remind you that this is literally what Tammy did the one time that they were in Gatlinburg, Tennessee on a family vacation, and she was fighting with everybody, and she just closed the door on them. So honestly, both of our girls are iconic, and I love them both for that, even though it's probably not the most mature way to handle the conflict in either situation. And then the part where maybe Amy is being really unreasonable is at one point she threatens to throw her mic. And I do have to say, Amanda came in and collected her quickly. Collected her and her nonsense with fucking quickness, because you know Amanda's not putting up with that shit.
Don't get the mic before I throw it.
First of all, stop talking to people like you've lost your mind.
This is ridiculous to how you been.
In all seriousness, though, it does seem like Amy is clearly just not in a good mental health space. I hope folks can show her some kind of grace. She is clearly, at this point in the show, in a time in her life that is just chaotic, and that doesn't obviously excuse how she's treating her siblings, who I think for the most part just want the best for her. I mean, I think this family shows time and time again that they all care about each other more than they even sometimes care about themselves. This is the first time she's ever had to be a single parent. This is the first time she's ever had a divorce. She's going through a lot. It makes sense that she's not in a great place. And so hopefully she's in a much better place today than she was when she filmed this, or when it looks like, based on the previews that they showed, that there's still more to come from Amy not being in a good mental health space. But hopefully she gets the help that she needs. And, you know, this is entertainment. This is a reality TV show. And also they're all human as well. So, you know, more to come. It's clear to me she's not in a great place. I hope she's doing better now that, because this was filmed quite a while ago. I hope you know that too at this point. But yeah, I don't know. That's all we got for this week's episode. Those are my thoughts. But feel free to share your thoughts down below for sure. That's all I have time for today. If you're brand new to my channel, make sure to subscribe down below. If you love 1000 Pound Sisters content, I have a whole playlist of all of their stuff that I'll link in the description box down below. All the times I've ever covered them on my channel. Make sure to leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. I love you all so much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!